Hello, welcome to episode 15 of Gringo Gone Wild. I'm Rusty Johnson. In this episode, we're going to talk about one of my favorite places, despite my better judgment, and that is the district of Belen in Iquitos in the Peruvian Amazon. Now, honestly, for lack of a better description, if the Amazon needed an enema, Belen would be where you stuck the tube. It's a dump. Even the name of the district, Belen, translation is Bethlehem. This is no Bethlehem. I've seen it referred to as the Venice of Peru. I would not consider it Venice of Peru. It can be a filthy, dangerous place. I consider it God's blind spot. And everything there has worth, except for human life. Half the district is floating, and just raw, dirty, seedy, dangerous, and lawless slum. It's riddled with crime and brutal violence, disease, wildlife trafficking, drugs, $1 prostitutes. Yet, as I said, against my better judgment, I love the place with a passion. I just can't get enough. It's like stepping into another world, but a harsh, jagged, opportunistic, victimizing world. A world where the only true law is the law of survival, and it's survival of the fittest or sneakiest. One of the sad realities that Belen brings to the Amazon is the whole saying of the grass is greener on the other side. That can be a lot of the mindset for people, especially children, who live deep into the jungle. For example, many of these children are born in the jungle, raised in the jungle. They go to school in the jungle, but the schools in the jungle only go up to about 4th grade. If you want to have any other education aside from that, you do have to leave your village and go into Iquitos. And that's really sad, because what I've seen over the years is these children, hear the rumors, oh, Iquitos has this, Iquitos has that, and they begin to envy many of the things they believe Iquitos holds. So once they get old enough, they get bored of the jungle because they're raised there. They leave the village and they go into Iquitos. But the issue is, Iquitos costs money. Pay for a place to stay. Pay for your transportation. You need to pay for your food. You need to pay for your electricity. You need to pay for everything. When you're in the jungle, you literally can live self-sufficient for nothing. But the minute you step foot in Iquitos is when it starts costing. And they don't have money. So a lot end up in Belen, living in the most modest conditions, and that's sugarcoating it. And because of needing money, lots of kids end up getting on the wrong side of the law, getting mixed up with drugs, stealing, with prostitution, all to survive in the city. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some, if they have a good support family in Iquitos, they can live there, get a great education, and move on to bigger and better things. But many get stuck in this quicksand of Belen, and you see horror story after horror story of these wonderful, pure children leaving the jungle because the grass seems greener in the city, and then reality hits them really hard. I've seen far too many jungle children be homeless, be abused, be exploited, and go hungry because they're stuck in Belen. So kind of like standing at the head of a venomous snake, Belen pumps me full of adrenaline, makes me feel alive, on guard, in the most primal sense of the word, because you never know what you're going to witness, or you never know what you're going to get caught up into next. Typically being one of the only gringos wandering around Belen alone, I stick out like a sore thumb. Not only does my presence attract Belen's dangerous element, innocent locals will sometimes follow me around and just want to touch my white skin. I'm kind of alien to many of them. Now, as you enter Belen, there's several streets running up a hill. Depending what street you take, right? There's one it's kind of like the clothes district. You'll find every piece of clothing known to man hanging from these little wooden bodegas, wooden tables. Another one is a street full of smoothies and ceviche, just their national dish. It's fantastic. So on one side, you'll have these tiny little places where you can sit outside, just like sitting on a crate eating ceviche. And on the other side of that, there's 10 girls, each making smoothies. Even smoothies with beer in them. But it's always so jam-packed. You really have to watch out. Pickpockets. People will swipe anything. And then you go up on top, and that's where all the wildlife is sold for food. The shaman market's there. Then you go down to more residential areas, down the steep hill, and it's called a hueco, which is the hole. And that's where it gets really, really dangerous, really seedy. To the point where you reach water, but the houses don't stop. The houses continue into the water. On the higher ground, you have the regular houses made out of cement. You'll see ones that have 2 stories on them. And one story is where they have a house or a store on the first floor during the dry season. And during the rainy season, they just move everything up to the 2nd floor. Then there's places that are just constantly flooded all the time. And they're like an entire town floating, which is kind of where they get the Venice comparison to. But all these little huts are floating. And you go up and down them either in a canoe with a paddle or with a boat, typically a motor called a pecky pecky. And pecky pecky gets its name from the sound. It sounds like pecky 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 pecky. But it's just a lawnmower engine with a long shaft on it and a propeller down at the end. Now, during the day, this place is dangerous enough. At nighttime, it gets real bad. The police don't even want to go in there. Nobody wants to go in there. Unfortunately, one night I went in. I didn't want to go in there, but I ended up in there. What happened, I was with a bunch of my friends. We decided to go out to Pardo. Pardo is a really cool, open, pavilion type of concert place. There was a band called Caliente there. So we're hanging out and watching, having a good old time. And then it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and you all decided that we were going to go home. Now, I was staying at my friend Jose's house. He was there with his wife, and they left in one motor car. So I hop into one motor car by myself and say, okay, follow him. And supposedly he was following. Hindsight 2020, I'm not sure if he did. But we get separated. He probably did it on purpose. Because next thing you know, I can't find Jose's. The roads are still full of motor cars, even though it's so late. And being dark, I can't locate him. But I figured the guy knew where he was going. But then after a few turns, a left here, a right here, another right here, another left there, I'm thinking, man, this isn't the way to Jose's house. Now, this is like my second time, maybe third time in the jungle. And normally when I go down, I get to Iquitos and I go straight into the jungle. So at that point in time, I didn't really spend much time in Iquitos. So I really didn't know where I was going. Next thing you know, he's driving around. I'm like, man, definitely this is not the way to Jose's house. And then I'm seeing kind of the environment change a bit, start getting grimier. I thought, oh man, he's taking me into Belen. And when I realized that, a shock went through my body. And I just remember so many people telling me that motor car drivers will sometimes bring tourists into Belen at night and meet at a certain point where their friends are, where they rob you and or kill you. So now I'm saying, oh shit, this isn't good. So I tell the motor car driver, stop. He pretends he doesn't hear me. So I push on his back. And in Spanish I said, stop. You don't know where you're going, obviously. I'll find another motor car driver. And he kind of turns back, but he doesn't acknowledge me too much, and he doesn't slow down or stop. So I'm getting pissed. So I slap him in the back of his head, and I scream at him, stop now. So then he finally stops, and even before he came to a complete stop, I'm out of the motor car. I said, listen, man, you have no idea where you're going. This is not even close to where my buddy lives. So I was still trying to be nice. I gave him a few solas. Said, all right, thanks for your time, but I got to find someone who knows where they're going. And when I go to reach into my pocket, at that time, I had a lot of cash on me. I didn't expect to be in Belen. I always tell my guests when they come with me to Belen, don't bring any money. But I didn't plan on going to Belen, so I had a lot of money on me. And it wasn't my money. It was actually money that donors up in the United States gave me to buy malaria nets for children in the jungle. That morning, we were going to go and get malaria nets, so I had the money with me. I didn't want to leave the cash in the hotel. So I reach in, I pull out money, but I try to half pull it out. I didn't want to flash it. And I go to grab a couple of bills to hand to him to pay him for his time. When I go to do that, he reaches out, man. He swipes the whole wad of cash, and he guns his motor car. And thank God for the Peruvian hair. Because at that split second when he gunned it, I reached out and I grabbed him by the back of his hair. And I had this nice grip on the back of his hair. And I pull him right off of the motor car into the ground. And I just start whipping his ass. And the motor car is rolling down the hill by itself and ends up hitting a telephone pole. While I'm lighting him up, man, I knocked him out. And I was just going through a divorce. So I was looking to kick somebody's ass. But I would never do it without a reason. And now I had my reason. He actually pulled a knife on me, a small knife. He took a swing at me with the knife in his hand, and he just caught right underneath my eye. Just like a scratch underneath my eye. I honestly didn't even know it. I ended up just grabbing the knife from him, punching him. I was kicking him. I got my money back, knocking him out. And then I went over to his motor car. I flipped his motor car over, and I took the knife that he cut me with, and I cut the gas line on his motor car, and gas starts pouring everywhere. And then I go running back, and I'm tear him up some more. I realize he's just laying on the ground, and he's not really responding too much. So stupid me starts feeling bad for him, even though he just robbed me. So I took 100 solas, and I dropped 100 solas on him. And I said, here, that's for your time and your energy. I've been dying to kick someone's ass for a long time. Man, I said, you're lucky I didn't kill you for doing that. Be more careful next time. He picks his head up a little bit, and I thought he was going to say something to me, but he ends up screaming. I couldn't even tell you what he was saying, but he's yelling and yelling and yelling. I'm like, what the hell's he doing? And all of a sudden I hear people from a distance yelling back to him. So I was like, oh shit, he's calling for his friends. I gotta get the hell out of here. I just started running. At that point, I didn't even know where I was going. I was just running away from the voices. And down there in that part of Belen, it's kind of these tight little alleys, and I normally wouldn't dare even walk through these places on a normal day, no less at night. and I hear the voices getting closer and closer. I could hear he was explaining what happened, and they're yelling more, so now they're looking for me. So I'm like, oh my God, how the hell did I get into this, man? So then I just started moving, trying to get further away from the voices. The further I was away from the voices, the better. At that point, that was my only goal. So I'm weaving in and out and going down these streets and kind of hiding in the shadows a bit. So people may see me. I really can't hide from anybody, but they won't see that I'm a gringo. Hopefully. So while I'm walking down closer to the water, I realize I'm getting further into Belen, into the seedier part. But I can't turn around and go back and get out because I hear them coming for me. So I got to keep going towards the water. And when I start going towards the water, kind of bank this little turn, I see silhouettes, and it's a crowd of people. And it was so close, I had to keep walking through the crowd because they kind of startled me when I came around the corner. Boom, they were like right there. So if I quick turned around and went the other way, it would look so damn suspicious. And probably some of the people in that crowd are related to the person who I just beat up. So I had to really play it off. So I just walked like I own the place. And I realized, I look, and they're like all girls. And they come up to me, and they're like really, really friendly. They start talking, and I quickly realized they're what we call canoistas. A canoista is a prostitute. But what separates them from the other prostitutes is that if they get a customer, they take you out into the water in a big canoe and perform their services in the canoe. Hence the name canoista. And every one of them was saying, hey, come with me, come with me, come with me. I said, no, I can't. But I just couldn't say I can't. I had to come up with some plan to get the hell out of there. So I said, well, maybe later. I have some tourists that are meeting me up at the boulevard. I'll go and get them, and then we'll come down and see you girls in about an hour or so. And they're like, oh, okay, sure. But my ploy was to find out how the hell to get out of there. So I said to them, I don't want to keep you girls waiting. What's the quickest way to get to the boulevard? And then they all point to a certain direction. That wasn't totally away from these voices, but it wasn't straight for them. I kind of could flank them a bit. So I said, okay, we'll see in about an hour. Of course, I wouldn't see them at all. They're literally like $1 prostitutes, disease-ridden. So I start hightailing it to where I think is the boulevard. I figure if I can get there, I can regain my composure and hook back up with Jose's. So I'm hightailing it, but I'm not running. I can't look surprised. I can't look scared. I can't look too much in a hurry. But I was walking at a steady pace with a look on my face that if you even speak to me, I'm going to kill you. And just kept on walking and kept on walking. Sometimes I could hear those voices getting closer. And what was the scariest sound was there was this scratching sound. Like, what the hell is that scratching sound? And after a few minutes, I realized what they were doing is a couple of them, while they were walking looking for me, they had machetes, and they were literally just dragging the point of the machete on the street while they were looking for me. And the sound just gave me chills, man. It was almost like Freddy Krueger type scratching. And so I'm walking, and I'm going uphill now. So I said, okay, well, now I'm getting out of the lower Waco, the hole, and at least that's in the right direction to get to someplace better than I am right now. Being at that point, probably about 2 o'clock in the morning. There were more people on the streets than you would believe. The good people were sleeping. As they say, the freaks come out at night. You could count on anybody out at this hour was a freak in some shape or form. So I'm going up, and as soon as I go up, there's one guy standing there. You can see he's staggered, he's drunk. Oh, Gringo. I just kind of brushed him off as if I was busy. And then he goes to grab my arm. He's trying to push me around a bit, and he wants money. I'm sorry, in that situation, you have to really fight for your life in a place like that. And I wasn't about to kid around. So I gave him a chance to let go. I told him to stop. He didn't. So, boom, knock him out. He was so drunk, it took one shot, and he dropped. So I started going up a little further, and I get up to the flat top where it normally is, in the morning at least, it's full of fish and the bush meat and everything. It's kind of the top of Belen. But now, being about 2 o'clock in the morning, it's just empty tables. There's nothing there. Empty tables and piles of garbage. Like they kind of sweep it all into a big pile. And eventually, I guess somebody takes it. So I'm wandering around, my knuckles kind of bloody from past 2 fights, so I'm thinking, you know what, I need some type of weapon. A leg from one of these tables would be perfect. The one thing about being in the jungle, the wood is so damn hard, like a steel pole. So if I could get one of these, I pretty much could clear out this whole town if I need to. So I flip one of the tables over, and I go to pop a leg off of it, and God, that thing was like bolted to that table. Surely couldn't break it. And the way they fastened it, man, I couldn't get one off. I finally gave up. I didn't want it to be seen by people tearing a table apart. That's just going to start a third fight. So I ended up leaving the table on the ground and kept on walking to where I think I was going into the right direction. And then another rat drunk comes out of the woodwork, comes right to me. And I just keep walking and try not to say anything. But if he gets behind, he's following me. I just wasn't going to allow that. While I turned around, I gave him a spinning back fist, popped him, he dropped. Luckily, they were dropping super easy. And they were by themselves, and they didn't have machetes. Well, I was like, man, I still need a weapon or something. So I'm walking along, and I'm sweating. Even at that time at night, or early morning, whatever you want to call it, it still gets hot, man. It's the jungle. So I'm just drenched, stressed, freaked out, lost, bleeding, cut underneath my eye from the knife. The knuckles are all banged up. Like, man, this isn't going to do it right, man. I need a weapon. But while I'm thinking all this, I'm fast pacing just to get the hell out of Belen. And it became such a beautiful sight at the time, as crazy as it sounds right now. It was almost the sky opened up, there was a full moon, and it was shining down on a pile of garbage while I was walking past it. And I look, and on the pile of garbage was a dead black cat. And before I could even contemplate anything, before I could think, before I could make any type of conscious decision, next thing I know, I feel myself walking through Belen with this dead cat in my hand, have the tail and the back legs in my fist, and walking down the main street of Belen, trying to get my way out. And it had to be within 90 seconds, man. Some other guy comes out, and it's just me and him on the street. It was like this standoff. He just kind of stopped in the street. You know, he didn't recognize me, and I was a gringo, so things were going down. When I got closer and closer, I could see his eyes wandering down to this dead cat that I'm holding. And before he even had a chance to try to go for me, I swung that dead cat and smacked him right upside the head with it. You will never know the look on a person's face when they get smacked upside the head with a dead cat, and how quickly they run the other way. It was the perfect weapon at that moment, and that gave me a boost of confidence. I'm like, alright, I'll get out of here now. I'll just beat the hell out of anybody with this dead cat if I have to. It was like the kung fu video game I had when I was a kid, like walking the street, and it's just this line of people that you gotta fight to get through. It really ended up like that. It was pitiful and pathetic towards the human race that we were like this. But desperate people living in a desperate environment do desperate things. But they weren't going to do them to me. So I kept on walking. By the second time I face off with a guy, I kind of like show the cat first. I think just like a pistol, as you wield your pistol and hope they back down. I was wielding this dead cat like, all right, man, let's go for it. And he was like, what the hell's this dude doing, man? He's out of his mind. He's turned around and split. So I was like, oh, great, man. So I keep on going, and now I can see the lights change, and I can see the topography change, and now we're getting to better areas. So finally go up this one road, and standing outside on the road is a restaurant owner, and he's from Germany. He speaks English. I never knew him, but I knew of him. So I'm like, yeah, I'll walk up there, connect with him, and try to get my way home. He's hanging out with about 3 different girls. But while I'm walking up, they're kind of looking at me, and I'm like, why are they looking strange at me? I mean, aside from the fact that I'm coming out of Belen at 2:30 in the morning. But then I realized, oh crap, I'm still holding this dead cat. So I kind of put the cat behind me and lightly lay it down on the ground, thank it for its help, and keep walking and go up and introduce myself. I explained what happened, and he had no surprise on his face that it did happen. This is very common. He says, sit down, have a beer, relax, get yourself together, and then I'll give you a hand on finding your way back to your buddy's house. So we sit there and we start BSing. So finally after that, I was beat, because what was the crazy part about this? It was my first day there. I literally left my house, and from door to door, from my door in New York to Jose's door, 24 hours worth of traveling. And then we immediately went out, and now it's 2:30 in the morning. No sleep going that entire time. Pretty much go hardcore for 2 days. I end up just falling asleep right at the table. And finally he's like, here, man, he's just sleep on this mattress. So he brings me into this dark room, and there's a mattress on the ground. He says, get a few hours sleep. In the morning, we'll go and find your buddy's house. So I go and lay down in this dark room, and I pass right the hell out. I was spent. And what seemed like minutes, but were hours. I'm hearing sounds of pots and pans, knives and sinks, people talking, people ordering food. And I'm thinking, where the hell am I? And they all seemed to be doing it next to me. It wasn't like I heard all this from far away. It was like right next to me. Pots and pans, crackling grease. And I look up, and that dark room I walked into was the restaurant's kitchen. And these people were literally cooking breakfast and serving customers while I'm sleeping in the middle of the floor, and they're stepping over me in the kitchen. It was rather embarrassing. I kind of look up, I get my bearings, I'm like, what the hell, man? And the German guy says, you sleep good, buddy? I'm like, yeah, I did. He says, you want some coffee? I said, actually, I had never had coffee in my life. I'm good. Give me some water. Grabbed some water. Hung out for a little bit. It was about maybe 7 in the morning. I said, okay, let's find your buddy's house. As I mentioned, it was only my second, maybe third time there. I didn't know Iquitos. All I remembered was that there was a small airport. Not the big one I landed in, a small one. I said he was along that, parallel to that, maybe a block or two down. He says, I know where that is. So we hop into a motor car and start heading towards there. But the way the roads go, there's like 9 different roads that run up against this airport. So we're just going up one and down another and up one and down another. And I'm just looking at the front of the houses till I can find one that looks familiar. Finally, after like the 8th or 9th street, I found his house. I remember it was blue and it had like these hearts on the windows. And he drops me off. I thank him a million. And I go and I knock on the door. They quick answer it. And they're like, oh my God, man, what happened to you? I'm still have dried blood on the side of my face from knife wound. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to talk about it. I just need to sleep. And he's like, here, go up to the back room, sleep all you want. And while I passed him, he's like, why are you absolutely covered with black cat hair? And I said, man, I'll explain it to you later. I went up, I laid on that bed. I didn't lay on that bed. I literally fell on top of that bed. I believe I was asleep before I hit the mattress. And it was literally about 12 hours later before I woke up from that. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, you don't want to get separated from your people in the middle of the night in Iquitos. Always have a good group with you that can have your back, that'll always be with you. I went to take that a little extra chance, and it came back to bite me in my ass. So, any advice on that, I'd say play it very safe than playing it sorry. I really was very lucky. Those guys caught up with me. I wouldn't mind fighting 4 or 5 of them at the same time. That wouldn't bother me, but machetes put into the equation, and these little dudes know how to use a machete, man. So, I didn't want anything to do with that. And it is an area where people have been killed for $1, $2, $3, and they'll use something even as simple as a giant nail to kill somebody. It could have been far, far worse. Thank God it wasn't. It was a wonderful experience, quite honestly, afterwards, when I woke up and got through it. But during the time, man, it was not good. So no matter where you travel, always play it safe. I don't say play it safe, play it smart. For me, if I can't go into dangerous areas, if I can't be challenged in that way, I like that challenge. But you really want to still play it smart because you're a visitor no matter what. I would like to thank you for listening to episode 15 of Gringo Gone Wild. I'm Rusty Johnson. Again, please subscribe. Then I'll let you know whenever we got new episodes coming out. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.